I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I'll never be able to truly empathize what it's like to have to take a stand to win your lives. To feel like you have to stand up against the hate instead of being invited to participate. I'm sorry that every time you walk into school, you mark an exit. That when the conversation turns to privilege, you feel desperate. I'm sorry that people who look like me seek power more than your protection. There is something wrong here, but will we listen long enough to hear? It starts way back in Genesis, after our sin made blemishes. Though we all come from the same place, some people seek to hate because of something as simple as where you come from on earth. But race is something so much more beautiful than exposure to the sun or the lining of chromosomes at birth. It is ordained by God, a gift to be celebrated, but instead it is turned into something to be hated. And the culture he intended to be so wonderful has been upended, shockingly different from what was intended. Our perception has been infected. Instead of color, vibrance, and life, we perceive our own unknown, our own fear, and our own strife. And I'm sorry that weapons were thrown into this equation, giving undue power of persuasion to one part of the nation. And I'm sorry that tools of survival have been used and abused to make you question if you'll even survive school, not in the funny finals week way, but in the tell my mom I love her before I go away. Because no child should have to hear gunshots, rather you should be learning. Like things about astronauts. Or how about the way kids walking home at night walk home in constant fear of getting shot at instead of being checked on if they need a ride, right? Shot at by the very people sworn to protect and serve. And I'm not saying that all cops are bad, terrible, or pervs. But there is a systemic issue when the pigment of skin on a child's arm is considered armed and dangerous. But this reality, it makes sense. Because sin entered this world through one man, and that ever since, fatherhood has been an epidemic issue. Not to say that women or mothers are immune, but to help educate you, children of absent fathers have 4 times the likelihood to end up in poverty, and it's not just the economy, but 2 times the risk of infant mortality, 7 times more likely to end up in teen pregnancy, 2 times more likely to face obesity, more likely to be abused, and more likely to use and abuse, more likely to end up in jail but have no money for bail, and more likely to commit a crime. So in this vicious cycle, we are running out of time. Sandy Hook, Charleston, Parkland, they all had more than despicable crime in common. The perpetrators all came from ill-fathered homes, and it doesn't take a regular Sherlock Holmes to figure out that this is killing us. From mass shootings to racism, a common thread woven in this tapestry of catastrophe, it affects so many of us, including me. So maybe you grew up with a deadbeat dad or none at all. And that reality, may it be sad, does not have to be fatal. There is a bright spot in you and in me, in that when we hear a gunshot, we will not be silenced. We will be defiant. We will not let ourselves become one more statistic, not the prime suspect, but the advocate. I'm sorry that you've had to have the talk. No, not that one. The one about being pulled over, the one about not wearing a pullover, the one about how to look, how to speak, how to act, having to hear automatically from staff, put it back. I'm sorry that it's been this way. But maybe, just maybe, that's prepared you to pave the way for those who are voiceless, who can't find the word, whose eyes have been blurred from tears. But I hope that in the coming years, the kids in school's fears will have less to do with the deafening sound and more about being the start of something profound.